primary ignition.
This is Star Wars.
Look out!
Core World News.
You may fire when ready.
From the bright center of the galaxy, I'm Greg Skondak, and you're listening to Core World News, your whole news service providing in-depth coverage of all the latest stories from around the galaxy. Now, for your news segment rundown for September 18th, 2022. Reading Raktar. This week, the Core World News team reviewed The Princess and the Scoundrel by Beth Revis. Now, your hosts, Ben and Adam, gather around the great tree to discuss the news.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Grex. Here we are again. Another edition of Core World News. Can't wait to talk about this book, Princess and the Scoundrel. Little bit of news first. Something that I just found out, thanks to Adam and Grant.
You're welcome. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I guess Rogue Squadron canceled again, or at least has been removed from the slate.
I mean, if that makes you feel, this makes you feel better, there's nothing on the slate in terms of unidentified Star Wars movie, Christmas time, 2025. So I guess part of it is it's not officially canceled. It's just in the same realm right now as the Taika Waititi, Kevin Feige, Ryan Johnson,
Benioff and Weiss.
Yeah.
Purgatory.
Which I'm like, a part of me is like, good, thanks for doing that. We knew that wasn't coming. What was it on the slate for? 2023? I think it was still on the
next year.
I think we all kind of knew that wasn't going to happen. And so I just let me say
I thought it would happen.
Yeah. Really?
I hoped it would. I mean, when they made that announcement 2 years ago, I was like, great. I can.
Oh,
it was like
2 years ago. I thought it would happen.
Slam dunk now, given Top Gun's Maverick.
Yeah.
Right.
Why not just jump into
it? Would have been perfect if it had went next year. It's like, oh, you like Top Gun? Well, here you go. Have some.
I mean, Top Gun Maverick is the best Star Wars movie in about 10 years.
Okay. I still haven't seen it, by the way, and now people are watching it on airplanes.
That is a joke because of a very specific scene and mission in that film. That's not a slam on Star Wars. It's more of a slam on Top Gun.
Is there
Maverick.
a trench run?
Do you want an honest answer to that?
Okay. And probably more of our listeners know this than I do. It's all right. Wait, this isn't going to be a Top Gun podcast.
No.
They're pushing the storytelling in the shows at this point. Like most of the story, I would say, is unfolding in the shows, and I feel like Acolyte is going to carve a lot of new territory for the franchise. And who knows? I think we might be going back. I'm hoping we actually go backwards, because then I think in maybe 10, 20 years we can return to our cast that we love from the sequel trilogy and like continue a story. But I'd like to go back right now. I don't know.
Let's go back.
I'd like
It
to
seems
go
we're going
back
back from the novel, the High Republic, anyways.
Yeah. Go back or go far afield, meaning it's a large galaxy outside of just.
Yeah, we've talked about this. We've talked about rusted C-3PO and like gray-haired Chewbacca and like just some real far future, far-flung sort of story. That would be.
Yeah. But I think Adam's saying geographically, like just go to a different part of the galaxy and make the galaxy feel bigger and tell a story that happened there that wasn't, critical to the Skywalker mission and adventures.
I hope we're getting at Taika Waititi. He seems to be suggesting it's all new characters. It's not Skywalker centric. And like, I love the idea of seeing Rogue Squadron on the big screen. And it's one of my favorite books. And I'm reading through the old EU and I'm still getting like really old Wedge, and I'm loving old Wedge quite a bit. But at the same time, like I kind of the Mandalorian verse is itching the scratch I need for that time period and for any time period within the Skywalker saga right now. So do something else in the movies.
Well, it would be similar to the Alphabet Squadron books that we've been reading recently.
Yeah.
And just be like a live action film, which would be fantastic. It would
be I'm sure it'll be amazing.
Yeah. I think that's probably Patty Jenkins' conundrum. Is sort of, and like what she's dealing with Lucasfilm is they've covered a lot of ground, even in the new canon, with those sort of stories. So it's like they've shown so far they're not going to just take a book and turn it into a into a feature film. They don't want to repeat coverage or overlap. So it's like, well, where is she going to go? I mean, I think at this point, I think it has to be
like getting the Death Star 2 plans with the Bothans or something like some. I think that's off screen. I think that mission's off screen. Honestly, I don't think it's on screen.
It is. I mean, but wouldn't that just feel so much like you're just like, you know, of all the movies we did that weren't within the Skywalker saga, of all both of them, which one was the most successful? Rogue One? Oh, let's do Rogue 2. And they're just getting the like. It just feels like, I don't know. I just go either way back, way forward, or way sideways. That's what I'm looking for.
So when is the next film slated? 2025?
Yeah, December 2025, which sounds like the future, though technically it's not all that far off.
3 more years.
Solidly in my middle age at that point. Just like terrifying. I'm doing that math like, oh man. A child might actually be able to come with me to that movie.
Yeah.
At that point, which is scary. Here's my thought. I don't know what to think. Part of me is great. Don't force it. Let the movies take their time. Breathe. Give them as much time they need to be done. The other side of me feels like and I don't know which of these is true. I'm a little worried that what might be happening is, hey, you know what's working right now? TV. TV's working. Let's just do TV. Don't focus on anything else. Just do the TV. Which I love the TV, but like, can't we have both? Am I being like
no? For me, I'd almost wish
selfish.
We got more films than streaming shows, because to me, Star Wars is like the original theatrical experience with like 2001, the sort of like the kind of mighty, grandiose sort of theatrical blockbuster.
Yeah.
Like, just a full immersion sort of experience. It's the original. And so I feel like, it just deserves the theater space as, you know, the medium for the storytelling, because it's so operatic, you know, like Star Wars is, I don't know, it just feels so big in scope that it's great in a theater.
Nothing beats that feeling of going into a theater and sitting down and watching a Star Wars on the big screen.
It's the best feeling.
Yeah, it's the best feeling. Like for the first time, even the second, third, fourth time, like still feels pretty amazing. But like, especially the first time, it's like a spiritual thing. I mean, obviously we're a certain demographic, but those who talk about Star Wars once a week for 5 hours.
But even
I just had a thought too.
Okay. No, you go.
Sorry.
Ben.
Yeah, this is a really well planned out thought that I had moments ago.
All the pressure's on you now.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I wonder if they set this another benchmark, I've used that word twice in the past 2 minutes, of making $1 billion a movie. And I feel like anything that doesn't make $1 billion is a failure. And I was just wondering if like maybe the pandemic, if they're like, if we give ourselves 3 years, like if we just keep kicking the can down the road, you know, I know mostly in the United States, it's business as usual, but like, if you really want to get those like blockbuster numbers, people are going to have to feel a lot more free. And I'm just wondering if they're like, when we do it, it's going to be an event, you know, the feature film's going to drop. I mean, the longer the wait, the more people are going to want to go see it. And, and then it'll be more of an event, make more money.
That's really interesting, right? Like create pent up demand, right? By withholding for a while.
Also,
and then,
and also wait for it to be like clear air where we're not still under dark shadow of disease and imminent death.
And we're also in like a giant evolution of the movie industry right now. I think we're right in the midst of it, and I don't think any of us really know what it's going to end up and look like in 4 or 5 years. Yeah, what movies are being made, how movies are being released. So that might be the other thing, is they're waiting to see what are the things starting to look like. Have we started to figure out streaming versus this versus that? Part of me is a little surprised that Disney hasn't, within the Marvel and Star Wars universe, started doing direct to streaming movies. Like not necessarily like not a miniseries, but make a 2-hour movie that's released just there. That's
I don't mind going
slightly
back to
smaller budget.
Too. And
what's that?
I don't mind going back to formula and doing a sort of, like a young character meets Jedi and sort of is swept up into an adventure. Like it can be the exact same formula of the original trilogy, just done with a modern lens. You know, like I would take that immediately. I would just
that's not drawn out into a 10 episode arc that you have a lot of filler in there that you don't need.
Isn't that what happens anyways? Isn't that inevitable? Like Jedi just are scatter across the galaxy and meet people, like meet types of people, and then the stories emerge. Like it's just right.
Right. That's what the Purge did, right? And like it sort of scattered all the Jedi, which is pretty cool. And then, and now they're picking up the pieces. I don't know did I mention this the other day? I don't think I did. Oh, did we didn't talk about the summer vacation, the Lego Star Wars summer vacation.
Oh
no,
we never talked about that. There was only two major points about that I wanted to bring up, but they it's mostly centers around Finn, which is amazing. But he's trying to have fun and whatever. It's a good show. Go see it. You get some cheap laughs. But there were a couple nuggets of like sequel information, like post sequel information, and he said that they were all going on vacation, but then they were all going to head off onto their own missions, and Poe was going to train fighter pilots. Rey was going to search the Outer Rim for knowledge about the Force. And Finn was going to search the galaxy for Force adepts. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, which is all pretty much in line with our sequel.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Manifesto. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty cool that they're, that's what they're talking about doing.
Yeah, and it's so funny. It's set in this just Lego cartoony, it's soft canon, not really canon, but like they couldn't throw something out there like that unless the story group agreed on that. And so that's clearly what they have in mind.
And that's why I watched that show. That's
reasonably discernible, though. I mean, like Poe's gonna be in the next one. Like
but they said,
but he could have gone like he could have gone general, like he could have gone to like Imperial Academy or like started I don't know, a new, like he could have gone eaten up by the war machine instead of just like training pilots. And I mean, there are different ways to go. And yes, we did sort of sniff those things out as the most likely thing. But the fact that it was like specifically the Outer Rim, specifically like Force knowledge, like even though I feel like he's been, it's cool. And then giving Finn a job, like we were like, yeah, Finn should be like, the right hand of the king, which is Empress, Rey. And he does sound like he's going to do that. He's going to start the school. I always thought that like Rey would have like more macro like issues, and then like Finn would actually be on the ground working with the students.
Which Finn seems like he'd be a great teacher. He really does. The more I think about like the last two movies, which they didn't do a wonderful job with that character, which read every thought piece ever and his own words. But what they did give us really does seem to suggest like he really has a way with other people, and I think and getting people to see themselves. Yeah.
Anyways, I digress. I don't even know how I got on that topic.
Sounds
but definitely worth a watch.
Yeah. Anyways, who knows? I have a feeling all of us are going to get our faces melted by Andor, and then we'll be thinking about feature films versus, like
we'll be like more like a Star Wars Tinker Tailor series, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Please.
Well, I was thinking. It's like out of like you can spin off these movies out of the series. Like we talked about coming out of Obi-Wan, right? What was it? The Circle? Is that what they called themselves? Or was the Path? The Path.
Yeah.
Like give me like I was like that would be a great show. That would also just be a great movie, right? Like a 2-hour movie of the Path on like having to do a mission.
Yeah. And it could be far afield and like new planets and biomes we haven't seen.
Yeah.
And
and maybe not big enough for theaters, but big enough for Disney Plus. Right. Yeah.
Big enough for a video.
Because they're doing it with they're doing it with the Disney proper stuff, right? Like a lot of those live action remakes are ending up just straight to Disney Plus.
It's crazy to
clearly.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just you could go back and do the original like kind of like a prospecting show, or like people are prospecting the first hyperlanes. Like that could be a whole show. You know what I mean? Like the roads. Oh.
Yeah, we're going to be getting some of that with the prequel sort of High Republic Phase 2 that's coming out too. So that's like,
in the novels actually they talk about it. Like it's still the families, the robber baron, sort of like Star Wars families.
Yeah.
The Santekas.
The Santekas.
Yeah.
Starros.
Well.
Yeah. That'll be.
Yeah, I mean
the Grafton.
Couple of weeks, right?
Grafts. The Grafts.
Right. This is a record for starting to pitch new shows in a podcast. I think 15 minutes in.
I would watch that show.
I'd watch that show.
Yeah. Watch that.
Yeah, same here. I think
that
all
should
the
be the
shows
segment
is
name.
that.
It's just like I'd watch that show.
I'd watch that show. Yeah. There's no shortage of material out there to make
a Star Wars
series and movies about. Yeah.
Movie. Yeah.
Also, did any of you watch? They came out. Usually, we'd make a bigger deal about this, but we've just been inundated with books and new series. But did anyone watch the behind the scenes of Obi-Wan Kenobi that's out on Disney Plus right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was an emotional experience. That was a true quest into my feelings about the prequels, and it was deep. that was some potent documentary.
Yeah. I'm sure you all listened to like Ewan McGregor. He was on like the media tour and all that. He's, and he kind of tells the same stories over and over again, and how it was just like he was, hesitant at that point in his career. He like wanted to be this gritty, like, film diehard, and then like, and he knew this would change his life, but ultimately his love for Obi-Wan
Kenobi.
Sir Alec Guinness, yeah. And there were some new nuggets in here too that I didn't really hear on.
It's one of the greatest characters of all time. Yeah, I heard a soundbite of Ewan saying.
Yeah,
loves Obi-Wan.
I mean, maybe
he thought he was the greatest character before, and he talks about seeing the films with his brother and like wearing out the VHS tape and like, watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's just like, that was me as well. That was probably you guys. Like,
yeah, totally. As soon as I saw it for the first time, I was 4, and I was
transfixed on this.
Run it back.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah.
I think part of the thing that I took away is I am so used to having Ewan McGregor in my life that I forgot how young and like fresh faced he was.
Yeah.
And like he
like acid wash
like
white
in the prequels. Yeah, and he looks like it in the prequels, but it's such a fantasy world that you don't put it together. But then they would show the behind the scenes, like when he was there, and I'm like, oh man, like that 90s look that he was rocking. I'm like, I saw so many people. Like it just really brought me to it. And like the one of my favorite moments is when he was tells the story of talking to George about the submarine from episode 1.
Yeah.
He's like, so we gonna go underwater in this thing? And George's like,
he's like, it's not real.
None of this is real,
It's like, but I kind of thought we would a little. Yeah. Maybe just go into space a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, Ewan McGregor is so endearing. It's he's amazing. O'Shea Jackson Jr. Also, I mean, I fell in love with all, and because he's another diehard. The fact that he would play, because my brother and I did this too, like play the Star Wars music and have lightsaber fights, like lightsaber battles. And he did with his sister, and I was like, oh, he's a real one. And like him, like he did get a sweet outfit actually. He had a nice fit for his character, and we've said it before, but I hope we see more of O'Shea Jackson Jr.
So good. Can you just imagine him doing that, and then Ice Cube just being in the other room, going, "Oh my God, will they just please calm down?"
Yeah.
I loved his footage because it was like he was walking on the set, and it was huge, and he was just like, "This is wild. Welcome to Star Wars." And it was just like it was a nice look at like the set, and I was like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
Like I saw the volume with Deborah Chow, which is so cool. Like all that footage looks amazing, and then her. I just loved all her beats, like talking about the work. That was some of my favorite stuff in the documentary. So.
Yeah, the Chow stuff.
It's also it's so good. It's a creative use of the volume for the setting of the documentary itself. Where they were just projecting scenes from the other movies. Though part of me watching it, I was like, oh, I feel so nauseous. Like when they're standing there watching the speeder chase from episode 2. Can you imagine just standing watching that full screen,
fully ensconced
the entire wall?
Yep, I sure can, because it looked so cool. Yeah, it was like Ewan McGregor watching Sir Alec Guinness and like just being there. Yeah, and it took me a while to realize. I was like, oh, that's the volume there in front of them. I'm like, wow, did they rent this thing? I'm like, it's really high production value for behind the scenes. And I'm like, oh no, it was just there, and they just like
it's like a Tuesday. The volume wasn't being used, and they're like, just put episode 2 up there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Someone flick through these movies and get it done. And really great stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, it pulled at the heartstrings. It's a great documentary. Anything else from there that rang true with y'all?
That was just great seeing Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
Hell, Hayden.
Yeah.
So
because your heart has to go out to him. Like every time I see him, like he just. It's like he and Ahmed Best.
It was kind of zeitgeisty. It was like This was the mythical character of all time. I'm sure 1,000 people went out for this role, and his performance is undeniably like dramatic and powerful, and I feel like to me it's like one of the best characters of all time, and he loves the character, and just seeing him return was, I thought, just like emotional.
Yeah. And how much they seem to love each other still. Like it's still like that. That's like the story he tells. And I won't ruin if listeners don't see it, but the story he tells when the first day of shooting, being back on set between him and Ewan. It got me a little choked up. It was just a nice little moment.
And then Ewan got on set and he was like, Obi-Wan, or so he like yelled, Obi-Wan or something, and then Ewan was like, Anakin out.
And Ewan didn't have to be there. He was wrapped for the day. He could have gone home. Like, it was nice. It was a nice little moment.
Yeah, good stuff. So if you want to have a good cry, take a look at that.
That's there.
Yeah. If you want to get fired up, and also if you want to get fired up to watch Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan series again, that's a good way to do that.
I was gonna say it did its job, because if I wasn't just about to go to bed, I would have been up for another.
What's
6
great
hours.
about it is they talk about the development
again.
process, and they talk about how he's like, I love the head fake we did where you think it's going to be Obi-Wan and Luke, but it's Leia and Obi-Wan. And I really loved the documentary in terms of like talking about the impetus of making the series and why they needed to make this series. I thought was super cool to hear everyone's input.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, right on. We got a book to cover, so why don't we get into that?
Yeah, we do.
Reading Rap Time. Reading Rap Time. All right. Here we are about to get into this lovely book by Beth Revis, Princess and the Scoundrel. Once again, this book came out 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Very long time ago.
Very long time ago.
Many cycles ago.
They are releasing so many books though, which is great, but it's a lot to keep.
Many standard rotations.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Force forbid they release one in the 10 weeks that Andor is going. We're going to be like,
But we got
I hate to break it to you, Ben. They are. It's the first one. It's the first one in the second section of the High Republic. So
all right. Well, that just
figure that out.
Yeah, that just means more content for y'all. We'll probably end up just doing double episodes as we have done in the past.
A lot of comics to get caught up on.
Yeah, and comics. It's
comics.
Good to be Star Wars podcaster.
Bonus episodes.
Yeah. Anywho, here we are. We have this delightful tale takes place immediately after Return of the Jedi. Like, we're still on Endor, hanging out with the Ewoks, and the first 20% of this book is a wedding between Princess Leia and General Han Solo. I just want to say
under the great tree with the golden sap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That could be the reason why they worship C-3PO. It's very cool. Like, the storytelling, I think, is very organic to like what we saw in Return of the Jedi. It's a great continuation, I feel like. Yeah.
Firstly, like, Revis is able to Revis. Am I saying her name right? Beth Revis, the author.
Yeah, I think so.
I have not heard it spoken aloud. So
yeah.
I think just overall tone wise, like, perfect. Like, picture, like, I was in Return of the Jedi, still there. It was just like, these are in my head canon. This is just going to be the like deleted scenes from Return of the Jedi. Like, I just felt like I was there. The way that she described the biome, the dialogue from everyone, it's just spot on and great. But it's interesting because it just flip flops back and forth between Leia and Han through the whole book as your POV, and I feel like we get these characters at their most personal. Bloodlines did some of that with Leia, but this isn't like really the crux of their character development. Like, sort of, she's really a kid becoming a woman, and Han is an old man becoming an older, like becoming, I don't know, a man boy becoming a man. And they, but like they have some really adult conversations with themselves and like development, and I thought that was kind of great. What did you guys take away from, let's just say, the first third of this book?
Yeah, very similar. I really loved the first third, which is not to imply I didn't enjoy the second two, or the second thirds.
Yeah.
That's how you say that, right? But the stuff that was just dealing with them on Endor was really great. And I will say, I don't think I have it highlighted, but this book did something for me that the movies weren't able to do, which is to really empathize and sympathize with how strange it was for Han to be frozen in carbonite, get out of carbonite, and realize that everyone else had lived a year of their life. And like for Han Solo, it's like, okay, I'm fighting the Empire. I wake up, and 2 days later, I help destroy the Empire.
Yeah,
right. Like for Han Solo's perspective, the Empire reigned for about 3 days, in a weird way, right? Like post Empire. Like it's just such an interesting idea, and his struggles coming to that. It also did. Beth Revis did a great job also of talking about the trauma experienced by Leia with the destruction of Alderaan, right? Like I think she did this really good job, an amazing job of talking about these two characters' central traumas in their lives. Like I think Han's central trauma is being frozen in carbonite and losing a year of his life, and Leia's is the destruction of her planet. They are by no means equal, but she does a really good job of talking about how they affected both of these people. Yeah, and it kind of brought them together.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the pod, where we were talking about this being kind of like feeling like a romance novel, but it kind of, there's romantic beats, but they're not as prominent as I thought they would be in this book. There's a lot of friction, and this book also kind of speaks to this theme of like intertwined fates and shared sort of like experience, where it's, both it's a metaphor early on Endor with the great tree and the vines and the entanglement, and sort of like how Han and Leia are married, and that the rings are created in this just really beautiful ceremony of like kind of like how intertwined they are. And then it's also the ice planet and the art that's created there, and how the ice melts and it's a part of the art. And it's just so cool to see how everything's kind of intertwined in this book, but it's also exploring friction, and Han and Leia still have a lot of friction with each other. And that's what I think is really beautifully done in the book, personally. But they do, at the end of the book, they do coalesce, and it is quite good. Like it is quite a beautiful encapsulation of their relationship. Yeah.
So much of like Star Wars storytelling now is so rooted in like mindfulness, and they really do teach like best practices for sort of cognitive behavior and understanding and working through traumas and stuff, which is new. Yeah. And I appreciate it. I kind of wish there was more of that when I was younger, in books too, because even now I'm learning things and being like, okay, like we're seeing their marriage, where it was kind of, it was a marriage that came out of, I don't know, really a traumatic experience, but they sort of came together. They were sure about it. And then they're very different people. And it's like, how do they make a marriage work? And
the thing about Leia, she's always, going on to the next political machination, and she's doing, as Han kind of frames her. And that's the story I love the most, is sort of Leia's solo journey in this book, where we first see her on Endor, learning about talking to Luke, and learning, and obviously embracing her bloodline, and understanding that she too can use the Force, and then finding the fire and Vader's mangled helmet, and being like she could never accept like her bloodline. She knew that, and just such a powerful beat there. And I was like, this is this book I want. Can we get Leia? Like, I would love almost like a side book where it's just this Leia in a continuation of kind of her explorations of the Force, basically.
I feel like
all that.
I get it.
Yeah, I feel like part of what's unsaid in this book is that Luke can accept Vader because he doesn't see himself in Vader, and Leia can't accept Vader because she sees herself in Vader.
That may or may not be a quote from someone you wouldn't expect to say that, but yeah.
Oh, interesting. All right. But I also feel like we get that in the Obi-Wan miniseries too. Right? Like Obi-Wan talks to Leia about all of the things, all of Anakin's things that he sees in Leia, young Leia. Like I think the more and more I read and watch, I'm like, oh no, Leia is
much
Anakin.
More Anakin.
Yeah, which I love, which I think is a wonderful thing. And she's just able to channel all of that passion that Anakin has into this amazing life, right? And this life of service.
I almost wish that the sequel trilogy had focused on Leia's sort of like explorations of power in government and in control of the galaxy, and then Luke sort of as like almost the Vader figure in that New Republic, and sort of like what that fallout was like between them if he stopped helping her with diplomatic missions that were dangerous that he could easily resolve with maybe just he and Kylo could go or something and resolve something, and thus Kylo trauma. Kylo could be traumatized by any use of force or something of that.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. That would have been fascinating. Our draws aren't hitting the table right now because we've heard Grant say this 6 times, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it's a really cool possible good take.
There's a crazy line where Leia is talking to Luke and she's like, I think we're at the precipice and I feel like we're going to all take a step and then be scattered like across the galaxy. And that's basically the sequel trilogy. That's actually what happens.
Right. That is what happens.
And there's a lot of foreshadowing, a lot of doomed sort of foreshadowing in this book as well.
Yeah,
that also happened in Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation, by the way.
Well, yeah,
that's a callback.
Lego Star Wars is a masterpiece.
But it's hard to read that, right? Because she's right, and you just start feeling that. And that's the other thing that's like, in a lot of ways, Han and Leia's story, based on what we've seen, post this novel is a doomed romance in a lot of way, right? And one of the things I really love is maybe not the right word, but appreciated about episode 7 is the loss of a child. Marriage. Okay, this is heavy, and so I'm just gonna say it. It's very hard for a marriage to survive a loss of a child. It's hard to talk about, especially now being a father, like even thinking about that right now, let's start crying. But like, I liked that part of episode 7, that they don't have to go into that, because just knowing that they lost a child, and not in a real way, but figuratively lost them to the dark side, split them apart. And they do get their romance. They do get that recoupling moment in episode 7, which is nice. We could have maybe done more of that, but like reading this book and watching them come together is sometimes harder to read because know their end, which they end loving each other, but clearly they don't have a happy marriage past a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, this is them at their most volatile because they're both. I mean, it's Han Solo, like he's used to being solo for his whole life, and and Princess Leia, who is just so on task all the time. That she just has one, speed, and it's top light speed all the time. And it's just, she's so selfless and always trying to help people, but yet they have such a healthy understanding, because we know this because we have their points of view and love for each other and a desire for these two individuals to become one married couple. And it's so healthy and beautiful. And I had that note after one line, I was just like, why did they essentially get divorced in The Force Awakens? And you answered it for me. It was subtle, as most things are, but it's, losing Ben to the dark side would do that,
Yeah, because they both probably were questioning, could we have done more, or could you have done more, which is what kills the marriage. But the other thing I think that Beth Revis does that I love is that every time there's a weirdness in space opera that is Star Wars, she veers into it, which means I'm not going to avoid this. Let's address this. And I have 2 examples. The first is just the overarching thing is again, with Han being frozen in carbonite, we get from his perspective, all right, I kind of have this romantic feeling towards this woman. We had some awkward moments in my spaceship, but I definitely fallen in love. She says, I love you. I know. Then I wake up and I say, I love you. And then she says, I know. and then we fight a battle, and she almost dies.
But he's like, remember,
and now we're getting married.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we'll get there. We'll get there, Ben. You're right. That's my second thing. But think about from this perspective, from Han's perspective, falls in love. She emits love. He emits love, and then 2 days later they're married. Like, and she addresses that. Like, she talks about the fact that like both of them are like, whoa, did we just like kind of rush into this thing? And that's like kind of undertone in this whole thing of them actually still getting to know each other while on their honeymoon, like still not sure who each other are, and I love that. The second example, which is what Grant mentioned, I want to read a line. It's my favorite thing of the whole thing. It's Han talking to Luke. Just remember that time after the Wampa attack, Han watched as the exact memory settled on Luke when Leia tried to pretend that she wasn't in love with Han and kissed Luke instead, except at the time none of them had known. Let's never speak of that again, Luke said. Never. Han agreed. Like, I just love that. Like let's just steer into
that was an agreed upon never again. I love it.
And by steering into it, it makes it weirdly less weird, right? Like it's just like, it was just Leia trying to, did not know there was familiar relationship, is really just making a point to, which from watching the movie, that movie, she's just doing that for Han's sake. But still,
Luke is. We should talk about Luke a little bit. He is kind of a Buzz Killington on this whole marriage thing.
So getting married, I see, to my sister.
Right, that I didn't know it was my sister, except for like a little while ago.
Yeah,
but like arm against the door, kind of like leaning against like the archway to like the tree, just like before Han can enter.
What are your intentions? And remember, I can kill people with my mind.
Yes. What are your intentions with my sister that I just found out was my sister about 18 hours ago?
You know she's my sister, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, good times with him. You know, but so it's kind of circling back to an earlier point with Grant was that like, and this feeds into that storyline that would be really amazing. The line is, no, Leia, I mean, you could help us form a new government. This is Leia talking to Luke. My father told me how the Jedi once served alongside the Senate.
This line was exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. When the New Republic is fully formed, you could work with me at the Capitol. We could build something together. And it's like,
where's that? That's like a beat in the history. I feel like wouldn't that not have been the next beat in like the
I mean, it's alternate universe. It's old EU, right? Like I think it's one of those things. Just like it's just what could have been. Yeah.
Pretty interesting stuff. Yeah, the Luke stuff is interesting because we know that eventually she does go and train with Luke on Agent Kloss, and I think by the end of this novel,
he even hints at that. He's like, "I'm going to find like ancient artifacts, and like there's even a world like we could train on. Like you have to train. Like, you could like learn the Force. Like,
I wonder if we'll get more of that story because it would be really fun. Just the training of
Ben. Let me check.
He's like
see.
Yoda.
I don't know Star Wars very well,
like, I can train you.
I think we're going to get more of that story at some point, probably in book form.
Yeah, probably in book.
Sorry,
guys, we've gone this far and not mentioned the Ewoks though, and the book kind of goes a little bit, and then the Ewoks like burst into a tent, and it's sort of like time to celebrate the Ewoks, and we get Wicket, and we get Logray, and we get Chief Chirpa.
They're all like
also
they know how to crash.
We also get an explanation. Yeah, right there. Crash the party. We also get the explanation of why they thought 3PO was a god.
Yes, which was fantastic. I thought that was beautifully done. The sort of golden orb and then
amber
the tree, the sap basically is golden like C-3PO.
It's like the same color as 3PO. Yeah. It was a nice little
glows
moment.
like his
one
eyes.
Of those moments where I'm like, I'm like, oh, this didn't feel like ham-fisted. Like the author Beth Revis does such a good job of tying this stuff in that it felt like this is something that Lucas thought of right back in 1978, 79 when he's writing this stuff. And she's even tying in new recent canon, tons of like references to the War of the Bounty Hunter stuff.
Oh yeah.
Which just happened in the comics. Like there are moments when Leia is talking to Han about meeting Kira, which just happened in the comics.
She's like, so I met Kira the other day, and he was like,
yeah, and there was a gulp moment for Han.
He goes, my Kira? She's like, what do you mean your Kira?
Yep. Yeah.
Because does she even know that they dated? I don't think she does.
I think so. I think in War of the Bounty Hunters, there is a discussion.
No, Kira.
I think Kira was cryptic about it. She was like, yes, I knew him. We grew up on Corellia or something.
Yeah, but I think
scrum rats.
Like, I understand what's happening here.
Yeah.
You know what scrum rats do when they're,
romantic nights in the sewer.
Yeah.
Can I say how uncomfortable I am saying scum rats every time, even though I know it's just for Star Wars and it's just about Corellians, but every time I say it, I just want to take a bath. I'm like, ugh. I don't like saying
the white worms.
Feels
yeah, there's some good stuff. Hey, speaking of weird stuff, we get more sex in this book than maybe all of the other Star Wars universe combined.
I mean, there's more like cut away from sex moments.
It could have been more. I would almost take more.
Give us more. Not too much more.
Yes.
That sounds really gross, but give us more. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like at least acknowledgments of adult relations between adults that are happening, which is
yeah.
It just didn't need to shy away from that because it's like at this point you're now telling the romantic tale of Han Solo.
Yeah, it's their honeymoon.
Maybe. I know. Like I okay. Here's the thing. I don't want to sound like a gross man, and I don't need like graphic detail. I'm not looking for like Harlequin novel.
No, it's like in passing. It's not friction. It's like in passing. There's twinkles in their eyes, and they see each other from across the room, and there's more passion. I think like that would be nice. I don't know. That was
it's like it's when the passion happens in this book, it tends to happen in their like bedroom, and then it cuts away quickly. And I'm not saying like
there's also the climate regenerator too, and we'll talk about the Halcyon.
Oh right. Oh yeah. Ben,
well,
thank you for reminding me of that.
It is.
That's a good point.
You know what? I
love that
overlooked
scene.
the Halcyon bits just because like I don't know, it feels so bright on board that whenever my imagination goes, it's like bright. My mind just like does bright lights. So.
Yeah. Was that
Ben,
was that the scene when they were changing to dive underneath the ice?
No, this was the
scene because there's that scene as well.
It was on the Halcyon, so we should talk about the sort of the middle third of this book is on the Halcyon, which was Mon Mothma's idea, the Chandrila Starline. But no, they had the climate simulator, and it was of syntax, I think.
Right.
And they were there, and Han came in, and she was chilling, and things got a little steamy in the jungle. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
That's right.
You're right. And there's also the scene later in the book when they're on.
He also like puts their initials in like the ship. And actually there because I would love to know.
So this is the only thing I could think about when they were on the Halcyon, and so those initials were carved by Han Solo in like an engine room. And so I'm wondering if you can go to this hotel. Obviously, this is just a blatant like advertisement. Like
if you can't, I'm going to ask for my money back. I'm going to walk up to the weird captain and say, I want my money back. There is no carved initials in your engine room.
Well, actually, I know. I'm just wondering if like you can get like,
I bet you can.
The place would feel so like, I don't know, if it's just rooms and like most hotels, rooms and restaurants, it would feel pretty dull. But if you could actually, work your way, like, is there going to be a screwdriver propping open a door that you can find and like actually go in there and then bang, there's the like gravity well generators, the engines and the initials of Han Solo, like HS and LO, I guess.
Right.
How many exhaust corridors does the Halcyon have, Ben?
Exhaust corridor. I will let you know as soon as
13,
I get $10,000.
I know from this book.
Oh wait,
13.
You're right.
Also, like, if I sneak, so let's talk about this is product placement. Pretty blatant, but we're used to that in Star Wars. That's okay. As a person who's been to Galaxy's Edge numerous times and will be going again soon, I am fine with product placement. But you better back it up. So I'm like, all right, I better be able to see these. And if I sneak away, can I get into a sabacc game?
Yeah.
Hollow Sabak.
By the engines, because that's what I want.
Better be Hollow Sabak.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely be Hollow Sabak. But
they'll be Hollow
will you be able to sneak into an actual like Sabak game with a Lasat in the like engine room?
Yeah. See,
if you ask like, so we read this book, we ask the bartender, it's like any place I can get some real action. Will the bartender be like, yeah, you can go down to engine room on level 4 and I don't know.
Yeah, the Meza.
When I
Meza was the Lasat,
yeah. When I go in 8 years, because I think that's when I'll be able to afford it, and it'll be for a monumental birthday. I'm gonna try to like figure out if there's like those secret things you can do, because there better be. And I'm like, it's kind of like Titanic. Like I watched Titanic, and I'm like, I do not want to be with like in the nice dining room. Like I want to be downstairs doing a jig on a table, right? So like get me down to the lower levels of the Halcyon.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
be fun.
What about like Captain Oswin Ditko? Like, is there holologs from that captain on the ship somewhere, or like?
I would hope so.
The ship, sort of like.
Can you get on the bridge and like see what that's about? Because I want to check that out.
And like D3, D3's there, right?
Yeah,
you're right.
D3's there, and I think that Pantoran is there too. I think she's.
So there's a line.
Riola Kiven, that character.
Yeah.
That was the like attaché character.
I think she'll be there forever. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a line earlier when they go to the Halcyon where the droid pops in on the viewer and says like, "You can see me, but I can't see you." Did you remember that line?
Yeah.
That's an actual thing that happens on the Halcyon, because you do have a droid, like you can talk to a droid on the TV a little bit. Like it's a little like it has like it's like basically a fancy Siri. But it does say when it first introduced it, it's like, you can see me, but I promise you I cannot see into your into your suite.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's all I was thinking when I was there. It kind of took me out of the story because I was like, wait, can I do that?
Yeah,
can I do that?
Can I do that? Yeah. I will say, based on the app game you can play while in Galaxy's Edge, there is a lot of lore, and they do tie those things in. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of that stuff that at least in your cabin, and that you might be able to get into logs and things like that and really read a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, all the Halcyon stuff in this book is extraordinary. Lots of different humanoid. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
it was good. I was like Ben. I kept falling, like not being able to remove myself from trying to figure out.
It was like filled with like rich elites and like artists and famous.
Oh yeah.
People. That was odd.
Yo. So that was serious, right? So it was like, it was funny because I wrote a thing. I'm like, are they dissing their own customers?
Yeah, I know. Like, it sounded like it was.
They're like, only 1%ers are on this ship. And then, it's like, fighting the Empire, they had been pretending that nothing was wrong, and now that the Empire had fallen, they were intended to keep pretending that nothing was wrong. They had felt that they had not felt the boot heel of the Empire or the next, and like, so I was like, whoa, okay.
Wait, and then there was like straight up that Han and Leia got. Do you get like a liaison, like attaché sort of character, like concierge sort of?
So you're saying you want to be one of 1%ers? Okay.
No, I'm just saying.
Something? Wait, Ben. Do I have an option? If I have an option to be me or a 1%er, I will choose a 1%er.
Yeah. I think
no one told me there was an option.
Yeah, I just know I'm not getting that sweet when I go there.
No,
maybe
but there are
3 of us team
I'm
up.
Demand it, honestly. It's gonna be like,
if the 3 of us team up,
sweet.
That would be very uncomfortable with all.
I've read the book. Like, I'm holding the book up at the counter.
Yeah, I'd be like, I want this suite right here.
There are the normal, which are very expensive options, and then there are the uber expensive options, and I still don't know what comes with those uber expensive options.
Oh my gosh, I don't know what experience could warrant, because it's like $10,000, right, or like $12,000 for like 3 days.
I think it's like 6 for.
I thought it's 6 for a regular like suite, but like what?
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
So but it's like so for like a
double.
For an actual suite with like a bedroom and a living room, like, and do the regular suites have like a a way to look out at the galaxy as it goes by? Like, anyways, these are the things I was thinking about while I was reading this book. But anyway, so it's like there's these people there, and they're like, you know, a lot of Empire sympathizers, and Leia's like trying to be like empathetic to them, but I'm like, you know, and people are being like kind to the Empire, and like they destroyed her planet, like like the Empire destroyed her planet, and these people were like, you know, helped, you know, fund the Empire, made money off the Empire, were like, you know, just still Empire supporters, and she was like, oh no, I should be like cool with this, but I was, you know, I would not be cool. I would be very cool.
Yeah, she is a well-trained diplomat, because I read those things and I'm like, how are you not just like screaming at people and punching them in their faces?
Yeah, there's some tense moments there.
As someone who like actively practices nonviolence and considers themselves a pacifist, I think in those situations I'd really struggle to hold on to those tenets.
Yeah, right. So Grant was talking a lot about like Leia's like arc through this, which now that you mention it, Grant, it's fascinating. She has one, but I really loved Han's like chapters. I just because I think I'm a fan, and he did so many very Han Solo-esque things in this, and just kept his cool, super suave, not going to get stepped
like trying
on.
to stop the Ewoks from burning down the tree and like their honeymoon party?
Yeah. Well, no, that wasn't.
I guess the pre-party.
It was the bachelor party. You know, his bachelor party got crashed, and he was not as, you know, happy about that. But good Lando moments in there too. Actually, Lando.
There's
such good Lando. Wait, the scene where like, everything's a catastrophe, and he's looking at Lando, and Lando's just drinking, like, sparkle in his eye, just kind of like leaning back.
Yeah, he has a goblet for some reason. Everyone's drinking out of like a wood carved like thing, and he's just like pulled that out of nowhere. He's got his own like flask of the good hooch. It's so Lando.
And just the Lando moment of getting Han to wear the suit and convincing him to wear the suit and saying it's from Alderaan. And also, like, that's a great setup for a payoff that's like 250 pages later.
yeah.
The Han line where he's like, we got to get the Yub Nub Commander out of here. So like,
Commander.
Just Han. Oh, that's such a Han line.
Oh, man.
I forgot about the Yub Nub Commander. I chuckled when I read that.
But like, you know, Han at the card table was masterfully done. And just like so fun to like see him, you know, see the game through his eyes and how he reads people. And, you know, that was really cool. You know, the way that like was Cerulean, is that the name of the like Conehead alien?
I think.
Sorry, I don't have notes on all of the species.
Syrian? Yeah.
Syrian. Thank you.
There you go.
And like how she like gave a wink and like they're like, let's work over this rube. And I thought that was just like great, and just pretty much everything Han did, you know, and then the PTSD stuff from the carbon freezing, but like mostly just Han being Han. And I love that there was one moment that like, I don't know, if I had like one thing to tell a future husband out there, every once in a while, you just got to man up for your wife, whether it's right or wrong. There's like, that's part of being in a marriage, is that just like, it doesn't matter what your wife gets up to. If she's like causing trouble, you got to get her back. And like, he was in a situation, and Leia, like, he didn't really know what was going on, but he knew Leia had an agenda, and he just backed her up. And like, with no thought to that. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that. I have a couple times, and it's got me into trouble, but it's just like, it's part of being a husband. It's just like, you just got their back. And I love that made it into this
beautiful line at the end of this, towards the end of this book, where I guess maybe midway through, where you know, Leia does say that about Han, where she's just like, you know, when you're on your last breath, like, you just say something that kind of like is the perfect thing at the right time for me, and it's like he's there.
Yeah. He's actually the more like emotionally mature person out of the two of them. Like, he really understands this world marriage thing,
which is kind of like really good. Like, it's useful as a diplomat and politician.
Yeah, I would have expected them to write him as sort of like ignorant and like, you know, messing up and being inconsiderate, but like really he was like hyper focused, and it was a good on her, and like was just trying to be accommodating to her and attentive to her needs and understanding to what she's going through. And, you know, I thought when he sort of shuffled off to a card game that he was just going to sort of neglect his wife. But it wasn't that. She was the one that sort of ditched him to do work on their honeymoon. And then he was like, okay, and was just kind of patient and dealt with it. And then, I don't know. I thought that was a surprise to me how mature Han Solo was. But the way it was written, it was like Calderian character. Yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate the internal monologue of it, right? Like, just like, because he wasn't happy about it, right? But like, just I did it, and I think that's about being a spouse. He didn't pout. Right? Like, you're right. No, he didn't pout about it. He was like, okay.
But he's even like, he's like you're gonna bring like a whole ship of people to like see like this Asuvia meteor shower, like this aurora, when like there's wreckage added to that because of the war. Like apparently wreckage from the war is strewn across the galaxy.
Everywhere.
Sort of like even going hyperspace, you might hit some wreckage from the war, which was like that's real talk. I was excited.
Yeah.
It's like, Han knows like flight and knows the galaxy and knows how to navigate, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there might have been a little BS in there.
And he kind of deters. Yeah, he helped deter the thing too.
Definitely.
What got Madurs? What was the planet called again?
Madurs. You got it. Yeah.
Madurs. Okay.
Yeah. But I want to echo Ben's thing about like this. The characters in this are weirdly more emotionally evolved than maybe than I was, right, when I first got married. And so it's sometimes like I was a little jealous of like, oh, like, because like it's one of those things where like this idea of having your spouse's back I think is key, because not to get like too like marriage like whisper or like talking about it. It's just like I've had friends where I'm like, I do not have your back, and mostly my job right now is to try to talk everyone down, right? Where I'm like, let's
de-escalate.
Yeah, because I know at the end of the night I'm gonna walk away and probably not see them for another 2 weeks, and by then it'll be fine, right? As opposed to with a spouse, this is like I have to have your back because we're going home together, and then we're gonna wake up together, and then we're gonna have breakfast together, and then we're gonna go on a car ride together, and then we're gonna have lunch together. I have to have your back because so I think that's like my wife and I figured out.
Yeah, you can talk about the mistakes that were made the next day, but you want to make sure you're on the right side of that battle, and the right side is always
as opposed
with your spouse. Yeah,
because she's had my back before, and the next day I'll wake up and be like, that was dumb. Why did I say that? And why did you have my back? But thank you for having my back. As opposed to like, why didn't you support me?
Right.
So,
it's a whole kettle of fish. Yeah, you don't want to go down that route.
But Han Solo, for some reason, understands that more than I did.
Yeah.
He did good. In this.
Yeah. He did good. All right. So the final third of this is pretty much, I don't want to be too reductive here, but it falls into, this could be any Star Wars novel after that.
Yeah. It becomes an adventure.
Solve Imperial, or solve, energy crisis, world-ending energy crisis, as well as get into Imperial entanglement and
cultural relativity.
Diplomacy.
Diplomacy. Listen, it was massively done. It was
beats though. Like wow.
Trying to destroy an Imperial super weapon.
Yeah. Because I was like, of course.
I will. I will say there's things
like. I love that. Like Leia's like, we destroyed the Death Star, and like the ISB Alicia Beck is like, lies, deception. I don't believe Revel.
Deception. I watched that last night, by the way. Yeah.
I love those Imperials who are just like, I kind of want a show of just like this steadfast Imperial garrison that's like, we don't believe the war's over.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I could watch that in our current moment.
No, not history, but I'm just saying it would be funny. Just Monty Python. Think Python.
Yeah. I will say so as much as this was very kind of just your third act, we need a giant set piece. There are two things I really enjoyed about it. The first was it gave Leia a moment to be active with something similar to what's going on with Alderaan, as opposed to like you watch the episode 4. There's not a lot she can do. She's not very active. She's just a passive person sitting there watching her planet be destroyed. And this reframed it of giving her a moment to, fight it, which was kind of beautiful, and question it.
Do something about it.
Yeah.
She's like, I lost my people, but I can save these people on Madurs.
Yeah. I don't want. I didn't mean to be. I was.
No.
It's an amazing story about how she goes into this place. It's written beautifully. You feel like you're there. I can see every inch of Madurs in my mind. It was described so perfectly.
In the ocean depths.
No, but I don't. I also don't want to feel like I'm taking away what you said, because I think what you said is important, because, for 2/3 of this book, it's a very intimate kind of small tale of just Han and Leia, and I really thought, I was kind of hoping that this was going to be it, right? And there'd be some intrigue and whatever, but it was really more like just the two of them and figuring out the relationship. And then I feel like, because it's Star Wars and your second word in your thing is wars.
Yeah, right.
There's often the need to make it grander and bigger and more epic, and they did and she did. Beth Revis did a really excellent job of making it bigger and more epic. But I think what you said, Ben, is true. Is it was just a little out of okay, now this happens, because it has to happen, and she did a great job with it. And I felt that he was able to do some things. The other thing that I think was important was the author Beth Revis was able to get into Leia's kind of nascent force abilities. Yeah.
I love
which connects quite a bit to episode 8.
Yeah, she didn't miss a beat. She covered all the ground you could cover with Leia at this time, and it's as it branches off into the stories that we know now, and she didn't miss any of that. I love
the best part of the book, honestly. That part was
This is your favorite?
It was the climax, I thought, of the book.
Where she uses the Force. Yeah.
Basically.
Spoiler alert, she uses the Force successfully. Yeah, it was fantastic. And for me, it was just I was once again, Han and Leia are the tip of the spear, in a battle. They're out there, right on the front lines doing things. And they're
he's special forces. That's what he's known as.
Han?
Yeah.
He's spec ops?
Yeah, he's special. But I think Leia says it a couple times. It's Han Strike Force, are the best. Deploy them. I was okay.
That's
for certain.
Those characters. I mean, this.
And she's I have to be indifferent in deploying Han. I can't think I can't, because I love him and he's my husband. It doesn't mean I can refuse his deployment to certain hot zones. She's I have to use.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It was such cool internal dialogue, but
because they're so overpowered. Them together, Leia and Han, essentially the Madurs people had a rebellion going for years and years and years and years. They were hoping to petition for a military detachment. They got Leia and Han, and that was all they needed. It was boom, right. And it was taken care of, which is great.
Yeah.
I think that that's their characters. This is myth. This isn't just sci-fi. If Force forbid you had Luke there too. It's just then it would have been over in a page, it
wouldn't have been a book. It would have been a very, very short story.
Yeah, right. Roll credits. But yeah, they're just great. And this added to that. It was a very organic tale where you're that makes sense. Of course they're going to rally the troops, figure out a way to infiltrate the place, gather info, find weak spots, and work with the natives to win. That's the recipe right there, and it never gets old. And those are the strengths of Leia and Han. But yeah, it was just for me. I just love these characters so much, and I don't know why. You'd think you'd get tired of these main character stories after I've read how many stories about Han Solo, how many stories about Leia, but I don't. Right? I just I read this and I'm oh, this is a new flavor and a new time of Han Solo and Leia just being awesome. And because they're good people and they're fighting on the right side and then winning again in a new way. And it was a really fun and quick read for me.
Yeah, and it's funny too because having slowly trying to wrap up the old EU, you would think I would get bored, right? Having all of the old EU stuff, and I'm I don't know, I'm still very excited to dip into this and able to mostly partition my brain between the two timelines. But I just loved it, and the last third may not have been may have been the adventure part, but the bonus of that was, I was reading this book for the past couple of weeks, and it was like slow going and not in a bad way, but it's like kind of just like really just reading the relationship stuff. And man, that last third of that book, I think I read the last third in one sitting because like once it starts going,
it was really
it's just an action tale.
Most of the books are like that too. It's like you hit the last third of the book and then it's in hyperspeed. But
right, and then but the author was still, Beth Revis was still able to do character development, and there were 2 moments during this last third where they kept almost dying. I think it happened a couple times where they almost drowned a couple times or got frozen a couple times, which was like really, they're going to get out of it because obviously, but still it's very stressful. But there's a moment where Leia sees Han and realizes that he's flashing back to being frozen in carbonite. And then Han sees Leia and realizes that she's dealing with Alderaan. Like there's these 2 moments of just this emotional growth of the 2 characters being able to see why the other one is suffering, right? Like it's just a nice little moment of seeing them coming
like a
together.
Forced connectivity between her and Han. Like at the end. They're becoming a unit, like a family unit in those moments. Yeah. Anything else, or can we do some random notes?
Let's do some random notes.
Random notes, love it.
I forgot. I had one other highlight that I want to talk about, which is one of my other favorite lines, because as we all know, as the 3 of us know, I don't want to presume for our listenership, but originally episode 6 was going to take place on Kashyyyk, but that didn't happen, and so instead we got the Ewoks.
Instead of Wookiees, we got Ewoks.
We got Ewoks. Which is awesome. But Beth Revis did this one line, which made me laugh, which is like kind of connecting the 2. And it said, this is Han talking about the differences between Wookiees and Ewoks.
I loved this part.
Where it says, Chewie could rip your arms off and beat you with them, but he won't. Probably. Ewoks would, but they can't. That's not cute. Like, I just love that line. It's such a great line. Like,
that is such a great line.
Isn't he talking to Luke where he's like, they're brutal, and Luke's like, no, they're cute, and then he's like, no, they're brutal, and then he's like,
they just are.
And I was
small.
like, what is this scene?
Yeah. I think, and then that was the line that followed. He's like, Ewoks would rip your arms off, but they can't.
Can't. Yeah, exactly. It's like, just cut to them playing Stormtrooper helmets as drums. Like that's all you ever need.
Yeah, they definitely eat people.
Yeah,
that's a good Condor one. Dragons around.
Oh yeah, the Condor.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we didn't have a run in. Like, what happened to Chekhov's Condor dragon?
Yeah.
Wait, what did you say? Sorry.
No, they were like, and then it disappeared, and then they also put back to normal. I was like, okay.
I know, that was weird. I love
frenzy.
Yeah. I had to go. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Do you mind if I get one in there?
No, please.
Well, it was something about like, would Han be comfortable with the idea of his wife learning about the Force, considering the damage her father had done while wielding it? And for a moment, I felt like on a knife edge that like Leia and Han could have been Anakin and Padme sort of flip genders, where it's like there's a world like where like Anakin was looking at Leia as like, you could have what if it goes wrong, and it just the way that she wrote it, it felt very parallel to, what happened with Anakin and Padme. But it could have, like Han was worried about, even though he didn't really know that relationship, he was worried about that scenario playing out.
It's a great part where like Han's like Luke doesn't have to be Vader. Luke knows he doesn't have to be Vader. You don't have to be Luke. You know what I mean? Like it's a great line that Han says.
Yeah.
Because she's thinking, maybe I have to learn the Force. Maybe I have to be a Jedi if it's in me, to be that. Because look how much change Vader can affect. Look how much change Luke has affected. What can I do?
Right, but no one knows what a Jedi is at that point, So she's just like, well, the only Jedi I know is Luke, but I don't want to be like Luke, where he's gone full monk, like, spiritual, like I want to do different things. And yeah, it was nice that Han was like, you can be whatever, you can be whatever Jedi you want to be.
I think it's great. I love that idea of just like, because we get so little of that in the sequel trilogy, right? Because we get hints of Luke's Jedi Academy, we get hints of Leia's training, but like just what is being a Jedi? What does that even mean anymore?
Right.
I had to go back and look at who Beck was, right? Because as someone who's read everything,
Oh, you looked. Yeah,
Yeah.
who is he?
Yeah.
Who is she? Because I forget.
So the reason why we probably don't remember is that she is from what is she from? She is from the Smuggler's Run, a Han Solo and Chewbacca adventure, which was a short novel by I'm in the wrong thing. It's Gregor Ruck, I believe, who is a great comic book writer. I did not realize also writes short stories. Greg Rucka.
Yeah.
But it came back. It came out in September 4th, 2015. So that was one of the earliest things after the new canon.
Wow, deep cut.
Yeah, so that is a deep cut, right? To bring back a character from 7 years ago, which feels like 28 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So I'm like, I remember hearing in the book going, this sounds familiar. Who is this character? Why?
No, they're like, who this is, and I'm like, I actually don't.
I literally read this.
I was like, oh, okay.
I literally read this on a plane flying to California to meet my wife's parents for the first time. Like, I look at the sense of memory. That's how long ago it was. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely did not read that, but that's fascinating. Any other tidbits?
I think that's all I got.
You got anything, Grant?
I like the flashbacks with Bale and Brea and all that sort of like turmoil is feeling with her parents and Vader and sort of that contrast throughout the book. I thought was really good.
Yeah. I have one more, but it's a downer to end on. So if someone has more than this.
Logistics question. There's like a growing blockade on the Anowat system, Ben.
Right.
Is that? Yeah, that's happening, right? Like there's Imperials who are like creating a blockade somewhere in the galaxy, like meeting up somewhere.
Yeah, I think that might have been from Aftermath. I think that was their rally point.
Sounds familiar.
Right.
Yeah. So to bring this all the way back to Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan Kenobi miniseries, we get a Lola call out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is fascinating because this book was written like well before I think that came out. So I don't know if she was able to see early or they just she was able to like right before it was published add this in. But sorry to end on this. Hopefully someone has something better. But Leia's listing all the things that were destroyed on Alderaan.
Alderaan and Lola is one of them.
And she says her old toy Lola. So, Lola did not
the destruction
survive.
Never ends.
Also, I had a dog named Lola that passed away 2 years ago. So this is not fun to talk about. On top of everything else, I'm like,
I didn't realize how hard
Lola would live forever.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You're like, can't Lola live forever? Well,
I know it's rough.
We all know Lola, your dog, crossed the Rainbow Bridge and is frolicking with other dachshunds and being adorable.
Crossed the Rainbow Bridge very, very slowly. Hopped along with her weird back legs, just bouncing around, bouncing legs, back legs bouncing.
Jeez, Adam, holy shnikes! Hey, did you guys want
anyone have anything else to talk about, please?
Charbet. So Charbet's alive at this point. That's news, right?
Yeah.
That Charbet lived past Death Star 2.
Yeah.
Right.
I forget when she passed. I know there was the Wanted or Most Wanted was the book with Poe Dameron. And I think Charbet kicked it before Kes Dameron did because he was still living on Yavin, I think, with his dad in that book.
Well, there was the Shattered Empire miniseries comic that had that Grant Ray held up earlier. Like, why is they able to pull that name immediately? It's because Grant was holding up the book. Yeah, because they're in it at that point.
Okay.
As well.
All right. So Charbet,
which is making the current run of Star Wars comic hard to read. Because I'm like, I thought I remember that we know for certain But yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that timeline.
Oh, the other thing you were talking about Breha and Bail, I had forgotten from Princess of Alderaan that Breha was actually like gravely wounded. She had like mechanical innards, but she got injured doing her like that like hike to triumph. I forget what they call it.
Day of Demand or something.
Day of Demand, yeah, where they have to hike this mountain. She fell off the mountain.
Yeah.
and broke all her stuff and and had to replace organs with cybernetics.
It's cool that Leia gets married with the Rindon sword. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, that was like a weird spiritual sort of.
She feels it at least.
Yeah,
like Ben Solo Han Solo moment where she's like in the Force. They're there with her. That was. I mean, the wedding was beautiful. Was amazing. Actually, it really made me think of my own wedding. I was lucky enough to have one, and it was like, but like that like I felt that scene because I was like, oh, I know what it feels like to get married, and it is a magical experience. And it was, I mean, that was so well written.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was really well, and I can only imagine what it must be for an author to be like, so you're gonna write this, and by the way, you get to write the wedding of Han Solo and Leia and Organa.
And she's
that's gonna be intimidating.
And
she
the
really
bugs
did.
that are sort of like have the petal wings that fly up.
Oh right, the petal wings. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like the gossamer.
Delicate, fragile bugs with the thin wings.
Yeah, gossamer strands, and they were
Even Han was like, "Whoa!" This
yeah, it was very cool. So,
but then it's wild to see who marries them, and you're like, "Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be?" And then it ends up being Luke, and you're like, "Okay, like this is makes sense."
Buzz Killington himself there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is like their religious
So,
leader.
Mary, my sister, I guess I'll do the service.
Yeah, but I love that like the Ewoks are like, yeah, okay, that was cute. Let's have a real one. You know?
Yeah, they're like, let's do a real magical one now.
Yeah, that was fun.
Our game has a lot to do with this book, so I don't mind. We can just jump to our game portion of the episode and stay tuned because lots more with the book ahead.
Look, good against remotes is one thing. Good against the living, that's something else.
All right, it is game night on the Cornwall News Podcast. Tonight we are playing Who Said It? Princess and the Scoundrel edition.
Oh,
these will be quotes from the book that you will have to name the character upon which who said this quote.
Is it a 50-50 chance, or it could be any character in the book?
It could be any character. We will start, I guess, in the beginner sort of the green circles here, and then we'll move forward into higher difficulty.
Far out.
Luke had to dump his X-Wing in a swamp to find the Force. You just need to find your swamp. All I'm saying is you need to be yourself. Find your way to the Force, even if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay, Ben.
I'll give it to
Ben. Shouted it.
Ben got it in. Ben got it in before I did. But yeah, yeah.
What is the point of power if it cannot save the people I love?
That's
Leia.
Okay. Let's go a little bit more.
Fresh
for
information.
our listeners, Ben. For our listeners, Ben was very, very nicely raising his hand.
Because Grant raised his hand. I thought
no.
that was a nice thing. Yeah.
No, I'm going to jump in.
Let's do it. That's it. The great tree is a part of their origin mythology. It gives life and connects them to their land. They say the roots of all the trees of the forest intertwine with the great tree's roots. Each tree on the entire moon is both a unique individual and part of the great tree. It is rather confusing.
C-3PO.
Yes, Adam said Adam was on the seat earlier.
Thank God for that. Thank the Force for that. It's rather confusing at the very end, which is
at the very end.
Is it Luke or is it 3PO?
Let's raise the fader a little bit. Let's get a little more difficult.
All right.
Okay. The Empire is backed into a corner. A caged animal will lash out violently.
Mon Mothma.
Oh, all right, Ben, you got it. All right, there you go.
Well done. Beat me to it. Yeah.
That was quick. It is my honor to serve you as the Halcyon glides through the stars. Let us pause in a moment and consider all that has been sacrificed and all that has been won as peace falls upon the galaxy.
Oh, that's the captain.
It's the captain of the Halcyon.
I'll take first and last names for full points.
Oh, come on. Ricto? Icto? Dicto?
Yes, Osmond Dicto. You got it. All right.
Come on.
See how easy that was? I knew it was
Well,
right.
Osmond.
A sculptor may use any material. We choose to use ice because it is part of the art. It melts. Everything passes. Nothing lasts forever.
Jens? Is that Prime Minister Jens? Or is that the actual artist?
That's correct. That's
You're right. It's a problem.
Yeah,
It's a problem. Is like I know the characters, but from listening to it, I did not commit these non-canon, non-main names down to memory. But yeah, well done.
Never lucky. Same with this war. Just unlucky. I had a contract working with the Empire. Well, the company I worked for worked on the ship tech mostly. Innovative stuff. My division was gravity manipulation. Yes.
I hate this game. No, I'm just kidding. Man, that's amazing. I will say at least I feel better knowing that I know all the characters that said this. All right, their names.
Adam,
well done.
Give me half an hour and I can make you almost presentable.
That's
Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
I'm throwing out.
I forgot the name of Lando.
I'm throwing out beginner bones again. All right. Those we love are never truly gone. None of the people we love are ever truly gone. You will sense them again. Their presence exists in moments of love and joy and quiet and peace.
Luke.
Classic. Classic. All right, let's do one last one. You've been assigned one of the best suites on the ship. I'm sure you'll find your accommodations to your liking.
Is it D3?
D309? Is that? Oh no, it's Riala.
Riala.
Nice. That's all right.
Let's see. Let's do. I'm glad you are dead. I will never forgive you. I hate you. You are not my father.
Leia.
Yes.
I spit on your grave.
Yeah.
Leia,
yeah.
That was a tough beat. You'd like me to use the Force to break up a party?
Luke. That is pretty funny. And also, going back to that Leia quote, that was a really powerful scene where she stumbles across Vader's pyre in the woods.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
That was a great scene. And then she's feels the dark side. She's they never talk about that. Leia, she doesn't have any bad parts of her personality, but she's no, it's nice to see her get seduced at times by the dark side.
Yeah, I love that part of this book of just this questioning how she would use the Force. Yeah.
Let's do one more. We'll just do medium difficulty. It is within my range of abilities to serve as an essential part of any gathering.
Is that D309?
Who said? Wait, what did you say? D3?
Yeah.
Said that? All right.
We both did.
Ben, what did you say?
Yeah, I mean,
Ben said the exact same thing.
Yeah. I said the same thing, but faster.
Yeah. No, I think I was faster. I think don't forget this is being recorded.
It's not D3. It's not D3.
It's not. Oh, it's not D3. Oh.
Can you repeat the statement?
Yeah, read it again.
It is well within my range of abilities to serve as an essential part of any gathering.
Is it?
Oh, no, it's C-3PO.
Yes.
All right.
That's it.
I like this game a lot. I think you did an excellent job of doing it. And also, what I have to say is I appreciate that you are using multiple quotes from the same character.
I think I need to.
I like that.
There's so much.
No, I think it's good.
Because I think I put 4 Han and Leia.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Because I think your mind automatically starts crossing people off lists. And then you're like, oh, wait, no, it's totally that. That's great.
Yeah. No, it was good. And it keeps our mind limber.
Well done.
This is, I always try to go for factoids that are way deep in our subconscious. but it's nice to have a game where it's like we both just read this book.
Just read.
I know.
Just read.
And having taking that, I'm like, oh, I did actually read this book and retain it because I knew everyone, even if I may not have known the names of the characters.
Unlike you, Adam, I read books at normal speed, and I don't listen to them at 2.5 times.
I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm a visual learner. So if I was reading the book in front of me, I think I would have done better because I would have had the names in front of me as opposed to hearing.
There was like a real like Keven, a K-Lod, and then a Keylon. There was.
Yeah, I also will 100% admit. I think if I read this book, I would have done the exact same as well as listening to it because I do not retain knowledge anymore.
Right. Yeah. It's just like a gallon of knowledge into a shot glass of a brain. It just all kind of spills out. But what's left is mostly Star Wars knowledge. Luckily for me.
That's true. Like, I will keep all of the characters' differentiations in my mind, but names just sound like when I'm reading over here, it's like remember, and then remember said remember, and then remember went remember. Like it's just like I'm like, I have too many things to remember. I can't remember new names.
I know. Actually, like 3/4 of the way through the book, that guy, like, is it Keelid? I'm like, I don't think I've actually pronounced this person's name in my mind yet. And just like K and like 4 other letters.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. And I'm like, is it Keelid or Keelid or like, I don't know.
No, I'm reading through the second book right now of the Wheel of Time, and like having watched the series on Amazon has made it so much better because I realized like I got through the first book without ever saying any of the names actually in my brain, and now when I read, I'm like, oh, I've heard that name said, like for 10 episodes, so I got it.
That's great. Yeah, no, it's really helpful. I think if you have the show version of a story and the book version of a short story, it's always helpful to watch it first because you'll be delighted when you read it, and then you have all that information sort of like stored in there. Visual like representations and pronunciations and stuff like that. But yeah, it's always weird talking to someone out of a book and they're like, that character, blah, blah, blah. And it's like pronounced exactly like totally different than the way you remembered it in your mind. And you're like, no, it's, but then you realize you're both wrong.
There were some strange pronunciations in this book, mainly locations though.
Yeah.
Like,
there were a lot of
and then companies like, it was a Heddle and then Bluth were like these companies that were kind of like they had, I guess, manufacturing.
The banana stand?
Tracks. Yeah, Bluth bananas. Yeah, it was definitely Arrested Development vibes. I was like, did they just say the Bluth company?
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I missed that one. Yeah, there was a lot of good name drops in this. I always love it. But there's too many for me. Like I always try to like wrangle them or at least highlight the names of like proper nouns and stuff, just so I can recall them later. But there's so many.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah. I don't know why I feel like that's going to enrich my life, but it will. Anyways, really fun game, Grant. Thanks very much for presenting that. And thanks.
That's a good one.
Thanks everyone for listening with us. Hope you enjoyed the book. If you haven't read it, go read it. It will enrich your life and make your marriage better if you like marriage. So thanks again for listening to us. We'll talk to you next week with, oh my gosh, Andor. We'll be talking about Andor next time. Yeah, and it's coming soon too. So
something real.
Yeah, I just watched Rogue One last night just to get like fired up. It was great.
Nice.
So be great, and may the Force be with you always.
This is Grex Kondak signing off. For the latest breaking news, follow @CoreWorldNews on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you, and good night.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.